Good morning again from Roseburg, Oregon. We continue our team coverage here for MSNBC. I'm Thomas Robertson, and we are at the base of Umpqua Community College, where the mass shooting took place yesterday, beginning at 10:38 Pacific time. It was just after 1:38 Eastern time. I was on the air when this happened, and now we are here to cover this, and it really is an amazing thing to see up close and in person and talk to people who were on campus and who have survived this, and also learn the stories, the acts of heroism that a lot of students performed in saving the lives of others, especially a man by the name of Chris Mintz, who was a 10-year war vet just starting at this campus for the fall semester, and his family saying that they're not surprised that he would put himself in harm's way to save others, but shot multiple times, 2 broken legs, but currently at Mercy Medical. I want to bring in, though, to the conversation security expert Peter Martini, CEO of AFIMAC Global. And Peter, we wanted to talk to you about what a community college like Umpqua means to a security scenario. I'm standing here at the base of the actual campus. This is really the only main way in and main way out. As we understand it, this campus only has 3 security guards for a student body of roughly around 3,000. None of those security officers being armed. When you look at a strategy of a campus like this, is that the right way to go?
Well, thank you, Thomas, for having me. It's very hard to armchair quarterback a situation like this. We've got a lot of details that are still coming in, but we can look at some of the things that we've learned from the students in the interviews that you've done. In these types of situations, they're very chaotic. One of the things the students talked about a lot is, I wanted to run, I didn't know where the shooter was. And one of the things that we advocate is obviously having mass notification systems. You want to get as much information to the students as you can in the methodology of run, hide, and then as a last resort, fight.
And we know that in a lot of scenarios from people that we're hearing that all 3 of those things played out with run, hide, and fight. It just depends on the conflict that student was found in, or whether or not they were able to get out of the classroom that they were in when the shooter walked in. And I know you have worked with companies to help limit security risks. So would you say for schools that are looking at this, and unfortunately, Peter, we're covering these way too often with school shootings, but should campuses really consider having some armed personnel on site?
I think definitively at this stage now, when we look at campuses and we talk a lot about motive, what is the motive behind the shooter? Ultimately, all the motives behind all these types of shooters is to find a large population of unarmed individuals. In my business, we call it a target-rich environment. And as long as you have schools, you have movie theaters, you have malls, you're not going to stop those types of incidents, unfortunately, from drawing those types of individuals. Access controls are very important. How did the individual get onto campus? How did they get into the classroom? Were the classrooms able to be locked down? We talk about hearing him go from one building to another. Well, how did he access the second building? Why wasn't that locked down? And does the campus have lockdown procedures? Finally, we know that time is of the essence. If you look at the changes in law enforcement dynamics and tactics, initially they would rally on the scene, try to identify the shooter's position, and then advance. Now all officers advance quickly. We know that these situations are going to be ended usually by the shooter themselves or suicide by police officers. So officers know the time in which they could get to that individual is going to be the preeminent piece of determining how large the body count is. So from that perspective, having armed officers trained to respond on these campuses that can limit that amount of response time would obviously be a situation, or in situations like this, be a benefit.
And as we look at the timeline of this, we know that the response time was brief, and we can estimate out of that it could have helped save a lot of lives here. Peter Martin, thank you, Peter. I appreciate it. I want to bring in now to our conversation for